Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Speaker Circle. This evening, I have with me the lovely Marcy Stoudt. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. Thank you, Lisa, so much for having me. I appreciate you letting me be on the show.
Thank you so much for being a part. I am so excited to talk to you today. Today's topic, for those of you who are just joining us, is about how to build your community and your niche. So I'm super duper excited. Tell you a little bit about Marcy and I. We met through a mutual friend that she was her your sons play soccer together, correct?
Yes.
Your
Lacrosse.
yeah,
Lacrosse.
lacrosse. That's right, lacrosse. And she instantly thought we would be a great match, so she connected us. Marcy is also in the coaching industry. Her and her sister have their business called Rebel Coach. So tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how you got started.
Well, Lisa, I love that you told that story because in many ways, I was on the beginning of just beginning our platform, our story of what we wanted to do. And our whole vision was to create this community of like-minded women. And we knew exactly what we wanted in terms of we wanted people that wanted to inspire and be inspired, that believed in mentorship. But I had just met Andrea, and within a moment of what do you do? What do you do? She quickly was aligned to our vision and said, you have to meet my friend Lisa. And our first lunch together was my first lunch with my new friend Andrea. And it just shows how easy it is to create a community when you really have something that you're passionate about, because it's so easy for you to talk about. So
I totally agree. And it was just I like to say synergistic, right?
and
And
fun.
fun. And she knew that you and I would just connect. So it's great. And I think that it just lends to our topic about community, because as your community deepens, even personal, people know what your needs are. And how did you start your business? I know you work with your sister, and I've been on every Tuesday. You all have a great segment. I'm sure you'll share with our listeners today, but tell us a little bit more about your business.
Well, it all started with Allison and my sister Allison. She and I had two completely different career paths out of college, where I went the fast track corporate route, and she did a lot of different things. She was a military wife. She was a teacher. She's an author, and she just had a lot more, say, the entrepreneurial skills. And together we always mentored each other, where she had all these strengths. And so I would call her for advice. And then I had strengths and she'd call me for advice. And we just would call each other accountability partners, like what sisters do, let's create a journal. And just one day we were on vacation together, and we decided, we were brainstorming, and we just kept saying well, maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do that. And that night we're you know what we should do? We should just start a company together, and then we'll find a way that we invite other women to join us on our journey. And since she's an author, she was going to write it, and I was an executive coach, and I was going to use it for my coaching platform. And we were going to use this inspiration platform to learn from other women. So we didn't have as many obstacles that were really perceived obstacles, but there are certain things that keep you away from living your dreams because you're just fearful. And so we started inviting women and friends on our call, and we would ask them for advice. They'd give us great advice. And every time we just kept leaping forward and forward. And 2 years later, we have a really great platform. We both have profitable businesses, and, it's just been a great journey.
That's so exciting in your community. And I just think about the word community, the community built. You just grew, and it was so authentic. And for those of you who are just tuning in, check Marcy out. Her website is revelcoach.com, and they do this call every Tuesday. You don't have to be a woman specifically to come listen in, but it's phenomenal. And I've learned so much, because you have all different types of women who give us their bird's eye view on things. And how did you kind of come up with your particular niche? Because I know you have a real specific niche that you serve. And if you could share with our listeners what that is.
I do. Well, I am an executive coach, and my corporate work, I stay focused just on working with a specific niche of women. And it's not just women who are in upper management or on that path to upper management. They're also within their 18 months of maternity leave. So whether it's their first maternity leave or their third maternity leave, I don't have anybody that has fourth, so I can only say up to 3 for so far. But I work with these women that are they are bold and beautiful, and they just want to be successful. And that includes family, it includes career, it includes self. And so it really is a niche, because I feel like right now, there's no better time than now for women to be successful in corporate America. So my coaching platform it works just with women that have high goals and they've got the power and the will to do it. And they just need a coach to help them kind of break through certain barriers, gain inspiration. And in a lot of ways, the work we do is, I mean, it's so fun. It really is great because, it blends from mentorship. There's traditional executive coaching, and then there's mentorship. And then even since I was a executive in corporate America, I ran strategy for a $2 billion company in marketing. I managed, sales team of 300 people when I was 30. So I leverage a lot of that business stuff because I do love the corporate America space. So sometimes our calls were actually more like business brainstorms, and we kind of figure out a safe place where they can say their dream out loud, and we think through like how they can present it to either their peers, their boss, their team. So it blends all three of those disciplines.
I love that. And I love the fact that you took what you learned and in your corporate space and how you've applied it to your business. And I also like the fact that you wanted to do it all. A lot of times, just speaking to more working moms, it's hard to balance. And sometimes people feel like they have to sacrifice something or someone, and just to be able to know that you can do it all and lean on a community, I think is amazing. Now, we already have a question in our chat box from Mr. Derek Lott, and he's like, can you discuss the difference between a coach and a mentor, which I think is a phenomenal question. Thank you, Derek, for adding that. So tell us, Marcy, because this is your community, coaching versus mentoring.
Well, so a coach is, well, let me start with saying there's a difference between when I was in corporate America and I coached a lot of the people that I had a very large team. So about 20 direct reports, like I said, 300 people. And my favorite part about being a leader in corporate America was the coaching aspect. As a boss, not a corporate coach, I have a clear idea of what I want them to get out of this conversation and where I need the goals to go. How they go there, they can use their own personality. So as a person in the corporate space, leading somebody, you as a coach is totally different than what I am now as an executive coach. And that actually was a big struggle for me. I always thought it'd be fun to start a coaching business, and I didn't realize that change. So to answer your question, Derek, the executive coach practice, I'm in charge of asking the questions and creating the space for my clients to explore solutions. But it's their journey, it's their choice, it's their timeline, it's their accountability. So in the corporate space, we'd say sometimes you want to push your people as far as you can, like in a positive way, to see how far they can go. And then when they're right at the edge of the cliff, you pull them back and then you say, all right, this is how we're going to do it. And the coaching space, it's actually that one decision that they made could be the greatest thing because they actually had a chance to explore that valley so they could see how high they go. So that's the difference with the coach, corporate coach, executive coach, and then also being a coach when you're in corporate America. And then a mentor, where they're different, is they're really helping. They're almost like right in the middle of that space. They're helping you to get to where you want. They're providing you the pitfalls and then providing you that insight. And they're really your ally, getting you to that next level. Often mentors are it's a personal request or it's an assigned mentor, not often a paid mentor. So that's kind of the space that I see it. But to be honest, Lisa, I love your perspective on that same question since we're in the same type of work and also the same career path.
Absolutely. I do think it's a great question. I love how you broke it down, executive coach versus personal coach. I think the difference is everything you said, I totally agree. I would just add the personal touch. I think a mentor, you would find somebody who's more aligned with your personal beliefs or in the space that you are, or maybe they have the same journey that you have had and they could kind of guide you through and join you where you are. I know the mentors that have been so instrumental in my life are people who I had a personal relationship with. They watched me grow up, or even at work, people who have the career path that you want to do. Where a coach, I think, is more of perfecting where you are in the space you are.
Yeah. And in that, a lot of times we use the sports analogies. You'll have a coach might not have been the best quarterback, but you might have a quarterback coach. And then a mentor might be somebody that was a former quarterback and kind of showing you how they did it, which is a easier thing to say. But in my space of this coaching platform, we work with a lot of coaches. We work a lot. We assign a lot of mentors. I love mentorship. It takes a special person to understand the value of mentorship, both as a mentor and a mentoree. And if you don't have one, it's always a wonderful place to reach out to somebody and be like, I'd love to get mentored by you. And it's a
I
simple question.
agree. I totally agree. And I think that not only when you're a mentor, it's a real reciprocal. When you're a mentee versus mentor, it's a very reciprocal relationship, because a lot of times people want to be a mentee and they think their mentor should be doing all the work. But most of the times your mentor is where you want to be. So you have to be the one that's hungry and constantly connecting with them. Because I've had people who say, oh, will you mentor me? Great. Well, here's what I need you to do. And if they don't reply, then I'm like, okay, I don't need to. And I hate to sound, you have to really use your time wisely. And for those who are not serious, so if you're out there and you want to get a mentor, make sure you're willing to put the work in as well. Don't expect your mentor to do it for you. As a mentee, you should be hungry and motivated.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. And so Derek just said, thanks for that. If I could ask a follow-up question, how do you know you need a coach? Great question.
Great question. Well, now that I'm in this business, everyone needs a coach. I mean, as a coach, I have a coach, so really, it's just a matter of how much you want to, where your goals are and what you want to do. So I don't have many of my clients, we do short-term sprints, because often you need a coach for a short time. You might not need it, every single week. Like, some people might need a therapist every single week on an ongoing basis. I love a solid 3 to 6 months is a great time frame for a corporate coach. But sometimes it's a matter, like my women returning from maternity leave, they need often it's 4 to 5 sessions. That's not a huge time. It's that transition of all right, I got this, but how do I do this? And they just need that person that, I'm not soft at all, because I know the women that are hiring me, they have goals. So I'm going to be the one girl, you got this. And then we walk through how to be bolder and how to be vulnerable without talking about your infants. There's a lot of confusion when you go back and you change, from a mother 1 to mother 2, a lot of changes. And so I think anybody needs a coach.
I agree. I totally agree. And I think even with myself, I do a lot of coaching for specific, like you said, a sprint. So in the speaking world, if someone has a presentation or a particular talk that they want just to be coached on, so we'll do that and we'll work on that particular thing. And then with that space, you look at, just like if you were playing a game, a sports game, you're going to study game film on your current competitor. So it's the same thing for whatever coaching space. So yes, Derek, I think everyone needs a coach. If you're looking to level up, that is a great indicator that you need a coach. If you feel like listening to feedback from others, if you've heard the same feedback and it's time for you to get better. Just with my own personal experience, that there was times in corporate America where I just couldn't get to the next level. And I realized I needed some coaching. I needed some mentorship. I needed someone to teach me how to be vulnerable, but still professional. So I love that you do that with women coming back from maternity.
Another one that I love doing is in terms of a corporate sprint is just performance review time. So most times, if you kind of imagine, if you've ever had an important performance review, you're going to the office, you tell your husband or your wife, you're like, okay, I'm going to the office. It's my performance review. You've been preparing for this for a couple weeks. Often you have to fly in town to see your boss. And then you have this conversation and you leave and you get home and your spouse says, how'd it go? And too often people are really fast on that performance review. They're either too boring and generic or too negative, but it's one of the best times to really inspire your people. And if you do those right, they're set for 18 months. So I do a lot of coaching to prepare for performance reviews. So it's one of those most inspiring moments, even if that person is about to get, a performance plan, but you want to have the right level of impact because you care about your people. And that's a fun one that I like to work with a lot of my women on. I
do agree with you. And I say to leaders that I do coach that there should be nothing in your performance review with your employee or your direct report that is a surprise, because you should have been coaching or providing support to your employee throughout the quarter, because most performance reviews are once a quarter. So, and I think that that's also about building your community. If there are areas that you get feedback on, people need to go out to those mentors and ask for advice, right?
Absolutely.
So back to community, I know that you are a mother, you of 4, correct? Is it 4? Oh, Marcy, we lost your internet a little bit. Well, as a mother of four, I know that that was one of the things that got Marcy really into coaching for women who are coming back into the workforce. I think we might have a little technical issue. Well, while Marcy is getting that resolved, I know another thing that she was really wanting to share with everyone, some practical tools on how you can build your community and use your niche. She had 3 steps that she wanted to share, which I will share with her, for her on her behalf. She said to be specific. When you are looking to build a community or you're finding the niche that you're going to work with and ultimately speak to, you want to be specific. For her, it is women entering back into the workforce from maternity leave. So that is her specific community and niche. And it's made her an expert in that because she knows her audience and she's constantly looking at things in literature that will help benefit her audience. The next thing that Marcy said to build your community is to be consistent. Make sure that you have a cadence that people can understand and know what to expect. With her and her business, they do the Revel Coach every Tuesday at 2 p.m. and people can expect that. They're consistent. Also, when you are working with others in your community, make sure that your messages are the same and people are not wondering, like one week you're giving this, you're giving that, and the next week you're something different. So definitely make sure that you are consistent. And then the last thing that she talked about was being generous. You cannot expect something, hey, Marcy, I see you made it back. Or maybe not, maybe so. Okay, we'll see. I think she might have gotten dropped off again. But she was saying be generous. I think that it's important to know that you cannot expect from others if you're not pouring into other people first. And when you do that, you're able to get back what you need. Are you there, Marcy?
I'm there. I'm so sorry. The Wi-Fi world is melting. I'm not even sure what's going on, but all of a sudden it just flashed. And then I was like, no, I'm sorry.
Not a problem. I was just going through your specific your 3 pillars to build your community. So I said, be specific, definitely add what you would like to it. I just went through the be specific, be consistent, and be generous.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm sure you actually did a great job. I don't want to bore the audience with my poor Wi-Fi. Yeah, so it is really like that. So the specific part, a lot of it's like building your business too, where if you want a niche, you got to be specific. And it's easier. Like when COVID started happening and we all went home, all of a sudden people are being really generous and there's so many different podcasts that were out there and so many free services. And I was signing up for this and that. And then next, I was like, wow, I actually don't have enough time. So I love thinking on the other side of if they're not really specific about the podcast or really specific about this group, I mean, I know that it's $1,000 and you're offering it free. I'm like, I don't know if I have the time, even though it's free. So that's why being specific is really important with your business and then also your community, because, we all are here. And I think time is so much more precious than money. And that's why it's very helpful if you are consistent with what you're doing, people know what to expect. And, if that works, the generosity just comes from your heart, and just serving and introducing other people and doing the right thing.
I love it. It just flows all together. And I think even coming out of a corporate space into just everyday life in the community, I know that everyone knows there's a lot of different things going on in our world, in our different communities. And you and I had a great conversation just about where our dynamics lie in life and where we are in our children and things like that. So how do you impart this on your children about building their community, keeping diversity and inclusion in the forefront? Because I'm sure you have to be deliberate about it. If we all just lived in our cloistered communities, then our children wouldn't have that. So tell me a little bit about how you're applying that to your personal life.
Well, again, this is a fun thing about being in coaching. My kids are my guinea pigs. So I definitely when I'm figuring out a messaging or I'm figuring out a new exercise, even with a lot of my work, I do some mindfulness work. So I love doing this one exercise. I'm real passionate about the expression, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And we had, as a family with my kids, my daughter is applying for college. And, it definitely seems like a daunting, you have to have this perfect GPA, this perfect resume, there's so many levels of feeling that my kids are getting messages like, you're not enough, you're not going to get into that school, you're not going to get in that school, it's going to be everything. And so we've had conversations around that. And then I try to do that, this approach of when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. And
I love it.
Coming from the place of looking at the bigger picture where you're going to be successful in 15 years because you're going to have a business. And I start breaking it down there. So by the time you get to the space that you're at, they're like, let's look differently at the situation.
Mm-hmm.
These places, they want you. And so in today's world, like right now with everything's happening with these, quite honestly, you look at the news and they're really forcing a message that's really strong that I absolutely have to work hard to change what I'm seeing, because what I'm seeing in the words of the newscaster, it's really scary, sad, stressful, and everything. And that's why, like last week, I reached out to you and I reached out to some other friends in our community, because I'm a little confused, because this is a story that's been told over generations, but it is new. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I don't want to bring any of that, what I perceived 3 weeks ago, into this space right now, because everyone's checking. You haven't heard us yet. And that's where changing, so with my kids, I'm doing that same thing. I'm like, you got to reach out, because, so I make sure that they are looking at a different viewpoint too.
I love that. And that also, that's one of the things I do respect about you. I know you're very self-aware. And if you're not comfortable in a space, then you ask your community. And we need to bridge the gap, especially when it comes to biases, both implicit or subconscious. We just need to ask people. A lot of times we won't, thinking they might be offended. And I remember, if you're okay with me saying that, you're like, hey, Lisa, this is a space that I would love your guidance on how to navigate when it comes to being a woman of color. What are some of the things you're dealing with? And I thought that was so touching. And I really had a lot of respect for you that you felt comfortable enough to say that. But at the same time, I had to give you that level of comfort. So that's one of the things I've been encouraging friends in my community, is to be a safe space, because a lot of times people just don't know because they don't know. And it's not because they are trying to be mean-spirited or clueless, right? Mm-hmm. And I love that you say that with your kids. Can you repeat that quote one more time?
I think Kevin already nailed it.
Yes, Kevin.
No, it really, it's just when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So in this current state, I used to be doing this for the quarantine, and now I think we'll be doing it over the current conversation. But for generations, future generations, people will be asking you, how they used to ask the question of like, where were you when the space shuttle crashed? Where were you when the towers went down? Yes. Now they're going to ask, and this is what I was working on before, was how did you handle quarantine 2020? Mm-hmm. And so there's a lot of stress. So I would go through the iPhone and pick a picture, just a random picture on their iPhone, and we tell a story. And the story that they share would be kind of negative, like, okay, my teachers aren't showing up, I'm worried about my kids not learning, all these types of things. And then we'd say, okay, we vented. Now let's tell the story you want to tell your grandchildren. Because your grandchildren don't want to hear you complain.
Exactly.
And so, or the more executive level, be like, all right, let's talk about your TED Talk. Nobody loves it when you're in the middle of writing your TED Talk, not the speech, but you're in the middle of that down.
Yes.
That's hard.
Yeah.
It's easier to tell your TED Talk when there's some distance between it. So the same thing with it now is like, we can look at the messages on the news and see negativity, or we can see black, white, blue, all locked in arms, and a lot of peaceful progress, a lot of like, I want to listen, I want to hear. And so there's a lot of great things going on. And that's a thing of like changing the way you look at things. Mm-hmm. You can share a story that is equally true.
Agreed. And I think that if there is no discomfort, there's no change. And a lot of this stuff is uncomfortable for a lot of us. But if we look at that uncomfort as things that are pushing us to have those uncomfortable conversations. I know on last week's speaker circle, actually Saturday, I talked about how I am a reforming people pleaser. And I don't like to hurt anyone's feelings. And I may feel a certain way. And a lot of times I'll just mute my feelings because I don't want to offend anyone. And I have to get over that, because it could just be me trying to educate someone, letting them know, and being uncomfortable, having those conversations, saying, hey, it's okay. You and I have very different backgrounds, but at the core, we both want to be successful. We want to see others thrive, not only in our professional businesses, but in our personal lives. And we want our children to grow up knowing that it is safe. And we do need to be able to have these uncomfortable conversations and destroy biases, both implicit and unconscious. So,
yeah. And this current generation of kids, many of them are really pretty colorblind. They're not really gender biased, like they're
yeah.
just more open. The media that comes to them, we don't really get as much of an opportunity to filter it like our parents did before us. So
Oh, yeah.
in
Agreed.
this conversation, the other thing I was going to say, I kind of learn a lot from my kids on this one, because when it's coming into this conversation, like I said, we've seen statues that were representative of slavery try to come down not too long ago, and there was a lot of protests around that. Now we see statues going down, like we saw in Jacksonville, within minimal protests and a lot of applause. And so I know I have previous life before me where I heard that same story. So with my kids, I've been spending time a lot of times actually listening to them. I've got two high schoolers, and just saying, what are you hearing, seeing? What are you thinking?
Wow. And then they just open up and kind of give you their viewpoint.
They don't understand it. I mean, honestly, they're in a good, positive way. They don't understand. They don't understand the extremists. The police brutality, the looters. So they have a lot in this middle where they think they're all, with an opportunity and things like that. I think it was my daughter says, I don't get morons.
Yeah.
When I asked her that question, I was like, well, that's not a very eloquent way of saying it, but
but truly, it's true.
And
I think it's that balance of now that things are out, making them aware and telling them, okay, this is what it is. And with your walk in life, everyone else doesn't have that same walk. So be sensitive to others, what they're going through. And you made a great point, Marcy, about the statues and things coming down, because I will say initially, I was like, oh my goodness, all this violence is just not productive. And I'm not judging what people want. If they want to be, if violence is the way to go, but I know it's definitely loud and clear, because sometimes, to your point, peaceful protests have not made a difference. Seeing that video of George Floyd taking his last breath was just beyond sad, beyond impactful. And I think that really opened up a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah, it did. It did. It absolutely changed the conversation, and it changed the sport, like the loud support.
Yes, definitely. We have some great comments. Galen, thank you. And everyone, thank you for all your comments. They've been really good. But yeah, this is the time. This is the now to build a community. And I love how you've done a great job with building it in your business and being so specific. And now taking those things and building them in our actual neighboring communities with our friends and stuff. I really, really appreciate that. If anyone has any final comments or questions for Marcy, please let us know. I know Galen has given some great. Savannah still has a lot of monuments. You're right. Absolutely. And then Damani, I can't breathe. Yeah. I mean, I can't breathe says it all. And so much, like, we all should have the civil rights just to be able to breathe. Right.
Well, and it's true. Like the whole, I can't breathe. I think everyone watching this, like, there's a shock, and it was symbolic of all of us being like, I can't believe we've been letting this go on. We need to all understand and take ourselves out of it and be like, what do we really want for our future? Because we're building our families together, we're building our businesses together. And
I agree. And we should all be able to take a breath of fresh air and be able to breathe comfortably in a safe environment, no matter who you are, the color of your skin, or your socioeconomic status.
Right.
So great. Well, oh my gosh, Marcy, I tell you, it has been amazing talking to you. I love your fresh viewpoint, and thank you for coming right back on after your technical difficulties.
Yes, I will not give a plug for my internet provider. It's been a day. We can't handle some tropical storms.
Oh, right.
Thank you for carrying on my message. And Lisa, I just need to say, you are amazing. I love the second we met. I get so energetic after I speak with you, and I just feel like you do such a great job, like painting a vision and being clear about it. And I'm really very impressed by what you do, and so honored to be here.
Well, thank you very much. And I feel the same with you. I'm so glad that we were not only introduced by Andrea, but been able to continue to do that and work and collaborate with each other. You add so much value. For all of you who are just joining in, don't forget to turn into Rebel Coach every Tuesday at 2. Check out her website to have it. And then Galen said, are you coaching difficult conversations for business? So that was a question for you.
Yes, I feel like that's the kind of main purpose. A lot of times, the difficult conversations in business is, how do you say this? Like when you have somebody that's really trying to impact change or make something, like if you're trying to, even if you're trying to make a sales team go from here to way up there, they're always, you're going to put yourself where you're handling difficult conversations. So conflict resolutions, I do a lot of. I do a lot of different work on, let's see, like empathetic confrontations. Yeah. So using the feminine
emotional intelligence is a hot button right now.
Yeah, emotional intelligence is big, but a lot of those skills, and that's where it's kind of fun with the way corporate America is switching is, we all have, there's like masculine and feminine skills. And what used to be the only way success were those real hard skills, like those loud, decisive, clear, like the masculine skills that, I've got a lot of them, at least I'm sure you have a lot of them. And then some of the more feminine skills that are very important in business is that being vulnerable, empathetic, empowering, all great. There's no reason to think one's better than the other, but there's a lot of men in the workspace that want to tap into some of those more soft skills that women naturally embody. Yes. And then a lot of women that need to keep problem solving in a way so they can speak clearly and get heard. So we do a lot of that conflict resolution of how to bring the best out.
Yes, no, I love that. And I know Galen just added she worked for federal government. You're right. There's certain industries where you are censored. You just can't say things. And I think having these type of conversations slowly will help to break down some of those barriers. So yes, and you're right about the soft skills. And that's one of the things I had to learn in my career was to balance it. Because I think my soft skills came across so much that people thought I was too soft. And they were like, you don't have the ability to fire somebody to have those difficult conversations. And I was just in the mindset of, I don't have to have a scowl on my face every day to be a tough leader. And I had to learn to kind of convert that. And coaching and mentorship is what helped me achieve that. So I'll tell you. Well, once again, Marcy, thank you again for your time, your talents. Check her out on Rebel Coach. She's on all the social media platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. Are you all on Twitter as well?
I'm not.
Not yet. Okay, not yet. You will be.
Choose my space. I got to get better Wi-Fi first. No,
oh my goodness.
No, I've chosen not to do, just as an entrepreneur. And a lot of my clients, I'm still just calling people. So most of our social stuff is for our free platform. And then my executive coaching, I'm just calling. So
wonderful. Great. Well, thank you again for your time. And thank you all for listening and your awesome comments. We had so much interaction in the comment chat. Next week, we'll be back at 6:30 and it'll be a speaker circle. It'll just be me. And I'm going to give you some tips on how to enhance your skills in this environment. Thank you again, Marcy. Have a phenomenal day. And everyone, let's continue to grow together.
Thank you.